Hey. So, I've kind of... I've been trying to learn Emacs, and it's difficult. Just because it's obtuse. And, like, I don't know if I uploaded this one, but I was talking about how I wasn't sure if I wanted to do vanilla Emacs, just so I could have the, that core, and then go from there, or do something like evil mode, or do space max. And I decided to go evil mode because that was the most slight change that still wasn't retarded is the word that comes to my mind, because I think non-modal editing will do nothing more than retard your speed. Key chords suck. They're not good for your hands, and they're certainly not good for my hands at whatever stage my RSI is. So modal editing is just awesome. So I decided to go evil. So I'm using evil mode. I've got my modal editing. I found a high quality evil mode tutorial for customizing, because again, there's a page on my website, or it's linked on my website, but it's to the WordPress. It's an article on WordPress that talks about my history with Vim, and I only really started using Vim as something more than a glorified notepad, like 2013. So it's only been about 5 years. It's only been about 5 years of really using and learning Vim. So at least that makes me feel a bit better. I'm 34, I'll be 35 in December. So by the time I'm 40, if I'm Emacsing half as well as I'm Vimming, look out. But at that point, I was just kind of like, scratching the surface of Vim, barely scratching the surface of Vim. I hadn't even come close to any of the limitations. And that was where I kind of was last night. So I started to, the switches started to flip, the gears started to turn. I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, I'm interfacing with Emacs, I'm understanding the buffer system, I'm knowing how to get around, and in evil, I've got, my modality going on. I figured out how to moderately Vim script ways of translating old bits of code, and I'm populating my leader key section. So, like, okay, I'm starting to get moving in here, but Emacs is just an editor, right? And snipe. Emacs is just an editor, right? So, like, where's the sea change? Where's the real flip that is going to take place when I really make that change? And I had been learning Lisp, and it really, just a little bit of Lisp just really turned my brain around, and made me rethink almost it shook the foundations of my programming knowledge. Let's say that. But this morning I was just thinking about it. I'm like, all right, I've got projects, I've got problems, I have issues which cause my work to slow down, which make it not difficult but convoluted for me to do the work, because there's lots of different systems involved. And the question is, where does Emacs step in? Where is the big, where's the, I don't want to say the killer app. Where's the killer app? What's the thing that's making me like, whoa, You know, that's the force multiplier. That's what's going on right now. Where is it? And I just, as uninspired a search as it was, I put in like, why is Emacs awesome? Or why is Emacs good? Top 10 reasons, top 7.5 reasons that Emacs is called Emacs. And there were some pretty good links. It was like a Quora page, and someone was like, it does this, and I'm like, so does Vim, it does this, and like Vim kind of does that, but my implementation does it. Like I tweak the system so it does it. And then they're like, but also like, okay, those are kind of big deals. And then someone else responded that he wrote a Spotify client in 16 minutes. And I'm like, I got 16 minutes. So I watched his video with my jaw on the floor. And not because, well, first of all, he's using Lisp, and, you know, Lisp has reset the bar for sublime in my life. The simplicity is just unbelievable. But he was like, okay, so here's the API, and I'm just going to go ahead and interface directly with the API. Like, he's doing a URL, he's doing a GET request, or a POST request, or something like that. And I'm like, oh, so Emacs can do that? And the answer is probably no. I don't think Emacs has like a server that pushes out information on, or not a server, but, you know, makes URL requests and gets them back. I don't think it has like direct port access, but it has Linux access. It has excellent Unix integration, or Nix integration. So like, it can pass it to some other program that says, hey, you know, blast out this data to this IP address. So I'm like, okay, that's impressive. And he gets the data back inside Emacs. He's like, oh, let me just run that. And then his blurb of data comes up. He's like, okay, so we've got some headers and some JSON data. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he's like, oh, let's just parse that JSON data. Parse JSON. I'm like, parsing the JSON? Did he just? And like, he needed to skip the headers for that section, and it's like, make headers go skip now function, and it takes whatever the file is and looks for whatever the closest approximation of headers is, and then bypasses them. And that was the point at which I kind of needed to pause the video, because I needed to think about the potential, the possibilities. Because what I had done, and a lot of my work previously was in web scraping and you know, web automation and stuff like that. And there was just, and don't get me wrong, I had good integration. You know, with Vim I could run something, and with Tmux I could move the data back and forth. You know, I've got a Vim screen, I've got a terminal screen, I've got a Python interpreter running, and I'm flipping between those things and running the data back and forth, and parsing the data, and updating code, and rewriting code, and running code, and seeing what comes back. And he did all of that in Emacs. Like, directly inside Emacs, as he was writing it live. And in data structures that are so simple that you can do pretty much anything with them. And then he just started passing functions to other functions. And I was just, I paused the video. I was like, I groaned and held my head. I literally groaned and held my head, because it hurt. It gave me a headache to think about all the things that you could do. And it's hard to believe that I'm reworking my brain, that all the neurons are flipping their bits going, "Huh!" And it hurts, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. Like I said, it shook Lisp shook the foundations of my programming knowledge. I've got all this architecture in my brain that says, here's how programming works, here's how data structures work, here's how you move data around, here's general flow, and all of that is just broken. And it's super weird. But I finished the video, and I pressed like on it, because I almost never hit like on a video. And then I just paced for like 20 minutes. And I'm gonna be a little late for work because of it, because I was just, I pace when I think, but I was just changing everything. My mind, it's like boggling. So Boggle is a game where you have cubes that have letters on them, logical representations on them, and then you shake them up in a physical space, and they get jumbled, and they present a different, they turn around and present a different letter randomly, and they fall in a pattern. And then you map out that new pattern and try to make sense of it, try to pick words out of it. My mind is literally boggling. I've taken all the structure that I had made previously, I've shaken it up, I've turned it sideways, and then I have to make sense of it again. That is, man, I'd like to talk about this more, but I have to go to work.